Alright, I'm back again. It's a nice foggy morning. I tried to do this video yesterday, and the more I thought about it, I just wasn't happy. So I'm going to redo it. Like always, I'm going to have some links down below in the description. The links I will be providing will be to the source video, as well as to some links to Cornell Law, kind of backing up what I'm saying. Feel free to double check my information that I'm about to provide. The other day, the Yankee Marshal put out a video on, I think it's Garrett Foster, the guy who was carrying the AK-47 and got shot. That was down in Texas. This video is not related to that, really, but it is. I'm not going to cover that whole situation. Legally, he was allowed to open carry the AK because that's Texas. You can open carry a long rifle, you cannot open carry a pistol unless the laws have changed and I'm just not aware of it. Sorry, not sorry. That's the facts. So legally, he had the right to do so. Whether it was the right decision, I think we can all agree it was not. It may have seemed like it at the time, but in hindsight, it was not. This is going to go directly into one of the comments on the Yankee Marshal's video. This guy... Hold on, I need to adjust something. Switch hands again. This particular guy in the comment section claimed that these protesters, actually I think he might have called them thugs or whatnot, they were violating the First and Fourth Amendment. The First Amendment, they were not giving free speech, and the Fourth Amendment because they were impeding this guy's right to travel. Where to begin? Let's first start, I'm going to guess, start best with defining the Bill of Rights and kind of giving some information on that. There were a large group of people who were afraid of a strong federal government. They wanted limitations on the federal government's power. So they created amendments to the Constitution. The first 10 are known as the Bill of Rights. They were originally intended to apply to the federal government. From my understanding, under the Due Process Clause, it eventually got to where it covers the government in general. So when you read the Bill of Rights, and it says Congress, blah, 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 to update that to more modern terminology, you can replace Congress with the government. Some more background. There was a time when the states were actual states. Basically, they treated themselves as independent countries, and they were bound together by a little thing called the Articles of Confederation. You can look it up. They ultimately decided to make them more like provinces, but they kept the states. Okay with that, even though, whatever, I'm not going to get into that whole kerfluffle. When the Constitution was ratified, the Articles of Confederation were repealed. If at any point in time you hear someone talk about the Articles of Confederation like they are current law, they're morons. When a law is repealed, or a set of laws are repealed, they're no longer valid. Whether they are replaced or not, they are no longer valid. In the Articles of Confederation, I know for a fact there was mention of the right to travel should not be impeded. What that gets into is basically a state is an autonomous country, more or less. That's not the full formal definition. I might throw a link in the description below for that. And that's what they were. Under the Articles of Confederation, you could travel between the states and you wouldn't be impeded, not have to show paperwork, whatever. But that, like I said, that went away. No more. So I'm going to start with the easy one. The right to travel. The Fourth Amendment has to do with search and seizure. That's where you get the whole, unless you have a good probable cause, you cannot perform or conduct a search without a warrant. Seizure of property you must be compensated, blah. That's where all that is laid out. It has nothing to do with travel. In no point in time does it have anything to do with travel. And like I said, best of my knowledge, there's nothing from what I remember from my Constitution class in college, as well as my American constitutional law, there's no part in the Constitution or its amendments about the right to travel. That was Articles of Confederation. So that argument was null and void. The second one is the First Amendment, where they approached the car and became aggressive, and basically that means they were no longer able to, they were in violation of the First Amendment because they were not peacefully assembled. The very first words of the First Amendment are, Congress shall not. The government shall not. Okay, first off, that was very specific. At no point in time does the First Amendment state businesses shall not, individuals shall not. It says the government. The Bill of Rights were designed to put limitations on what the government could do in order to protect the individual's inalienable rights. Plain and simple. So I posted the actual words, copy and paste, replied to him, and I got this response. I might have exaggerated for theatrical effect on the right to travel, but you cannot deny they were in violation of the First Amendment. Okay, an exaggeration for the whole sake of theatrical would be stating that every time someone says, I'm a veteran, people have a telescopic flagpole with a flag attached pop out of their keister while either Yankee Doodle or America the Beatles plays. That would be an exaggeration for dramatic effect, theatrical effect. It is definitely an overstatement, and I have actually seen it come close, truth be told. But the fact of the matter is, it doesn't happen. What this person displayed was a complete and total lack of knowledge and comprehension. It's hardly of the subject matter at hand, specifically the First and Fourth Amendment, but could be expanded to the Bill of Rights as a whole. But he doubled down on violation of the First Amendment because they were not peacefully assembled. Again, the First Amendment covers Congress shall not, or essentially the government shall not infringe upon the right to free speech, the right to peacefully assemble, things of that nature. Congress shall not. The government shall not. So it's impossible for an individual citizen to infringe on the First Amendment or any of the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights sets up protections of your inalienable rights. If an individual says or does something that is not covered, say under the First Amendment, they are not in violation of the First Amendment. That means that their words, their actions are not protected. Which means, should a prosecutorial district decide to prosecute them, they have that option. They can do so. They're not violating the First Amendment. They're just not protected by it. The government can violate the First Amendment, and the Supreme Court can smack it down. And I'm sure under, their oath is to uphold the Constitution and all that, I'm sure there are ways that members of the government could be prosecuted for doing so, for violating, say, the First Amendment. That would probably get into the U.S. Code, which is another animal. At the end of the day, the Bill of Rights is not, I'm probably making up this word, but it's not a prosecutorial prong, if you will. I'm not saying I probably made that terminology up. But the Bill of Rights, you cannot be prosecuted for violating them, specifically. You just lose their protections, and that means actual laws or avenues open up where actual laws, actual code, statutes, whatever, can be used to prosecute you. So, like I said, I'm going to have links down below. Check them out. Fact check me. Look into other things. Let me know what you think. But when you hear, and you know what? If you come across someone who is running their mouth and you think I've done a good enough job trying to explain this fairly off the cuff early in the morning, enough to get your point across, feel free to share the link. And they can see the links, they can see the information firsthand. They probably won't listen because they've made up their mind they know all. As the old saying goes, how do you tell someone that already knows? But, like I said, let me know what you think. Feel free to share the link. I'm going to get off here and get on to work. Later.